Yeah, so my name is Thomas Christiansen, and I'm a co-founder of MyMe. And today I'll talk to you about how I've been debugging my allergy through the last 3 to 5 years. And I've been using our app MyMe since the beginning of May. I made more than 9,400 observations of myself, my condition, and my daily life. And what you'll see now is based on that. So I've been logging some symptoms of my allergy, and the main symptom is sneezing. Then sometimes I feel cold, like I'm getting a flu. I also feel tired. I've had some eczema on my hands, so you see a lot of photos there. I've been logging my food intake, water, beverages, and also supplements. So you see photos of some of the food I've been eating since the beginning of May, and also water consumption, beverages. Then I've been monitoring some bodily functions like sleep, urination, elimination, bowel movements, and I know when I did what and where. And I've had some major personal results by doing this kind of personal improvement, and I can. Let's see, the summer of 2011 was the first summer in 30 years where I could enjoy the smell of grass. For 30 years I also had this red sensitive skin around my eyes. I can now control the eczema on my hands without using any medication. And then just generally my level of energy level, quality of life have improved significantly. So the story behind this is that some 5 years ago, in my mid-30s, my allergy started getting worse, and I went to see my doctors, and I wasn't quite satisfied with the kind of method or approach they applied. I come from this tradition and also working as a management consultant doing process improvement in software companies, and I've learned something about real problem solving from doing software, and also from Toyota. Learned that they picked something up from the American, it was stemming. And so I said, let's start using that kind of method on my own health, because I'm not getting the real kind of help. So I have some examples here for 2008. I started doing some mind mapping of my condition, also starting experimenting other kinds of tracking. And then I arrived at this kind of thrashing hypothesis that I've seen systems close to their capacity limit, they thrash. I've seen that with servers, you see it with traffic. So I started reasoning about my immune defense system. And I had this idea that it might, looking at it as a software developer, I thought there must be a part monitoring incoming material, a part that's monitoring the system state. Then the system must be kind of correlating what's coming in with what's the overall body's state. And then during your lifetime, the immune defense system is also building this threat database of threats. This is the adaptive part of the immune defense system. And my idea was, perhaps there's a way of making your immune defense system recalculating the threat levels assigned to these threats that it's been calculated. So the hypothesis I was trying out this summer was, if I kept my body in overall good state during the grass pollen season, perhaps I could reprogram my system not to be afraid of grass pollen. And that was the main experiment. And then the auxiliary was that I found out during other experiments that my digestion and my immune defense system have something to do with each other. So I said, well, I'll try to keep my digestion in a good state during the summer. And this is what I saw. This is all my sneezes this summer. So I recorded every single sneeze, where it was, when it was. And what I saw was this totally new dynamic this summer. I've never seen it before. I didn't take any medication. And down here we have Mountain View, the Quantified self-conference. I had my first symptoms outside the Computer History Museum. And that's the kind of the first peak you see there. But what happened was that after a few days out here, the symptoms kind of disappeared. Then I went to New York, back to New York, and then I got a new peak. But also in New York, the symptoms kind of weared off after a couple of days. And then in mid-June, I went back to my native Denmark, to Copenhagen, and then we see this big peak. I interpret that as I'm going back to the grass pollen my system got afraid of when I was a kid, the type of breast pump we have in Denmark. And then we have two other peaks down there. That was when I went back to my hometown and to my parents' cabin, where there's a lot of breast pump. And as a kid, I had my worst symptoms at that place. But what we see there is also that it kind of drops off. I stopped sneezing after a couple of days. And then I spent 5.5 weeks at the cabin, barely any symptoms. And we have this condition with a lot of brass out there. So what you'll see now is if we then correlate that to the general breast pump level in Denmark, please note that when my symptoms are dropping, when I went back to Copenhagen and to my hometown, then the breast pump levels are going up in Denmark generally. So that was what I wanted out of this. And then you see what the question mark is me returning to my apartment in Copenhagen, and I start sneezing. So there's something in my apartment, and that's kind of the next project to find out what is that. So a main learning for me was that by doing this, suddenly I went from symptoms to empowering data. Something that used to be, I was subjected to symptoms. Now it's empowering data, and now I'm more feeling like 100 following the trailer. Every time I sneeze now, it's the symptom, my system revealing something about itself. And that's where I get the empowering data for making new experiments. So what we're trying to do is to make an app that can empower people to do these kind of experiments to uncover what we call the hidden causes of the health concerns.
I think we're on a roll tonight. That was so great. You know, I'll start off by just asking, have you thought about just travel itself? Because when I saw your graphs, travels seem to have an effect on you.
Yeah, and I think what I've learned about traveling is that if you have these kind of idiopathic conditions, and especially allergy, changing location, you can learn a lot from that. But I've been traveling during summertime for the past 30 years, and I've had allergies all over the place. So it's definitely a new dynamic I've seen this summer.
Right.
Yeah.
Good. Scott.
Yeah. What did you do to improve your digestion? Yeah.
So Gary kind of said that I might get that question. So I've been doing a lot of experiments, but what I found out is kind of this summer I did Tim Ferriss' slow carb diet, because one of the underlying causes for me seems to be an overgrowth of fungus in my digestion.
Oh.
So I was trying to stay away from carbs to not introduce too much fast sugar.
Mm.
And then I've been using a lot of probiotics to help my digestion and kind of rebuild that. So that are the two main parts, and also some supplements on top of that.
And overall, you're getting good results. Huh?
Yeah.
Great.
As you move around, how difficult do you find it to actually control what you have to eat? Because so frequently options when we travel really ultimately dictate our diet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a challenge.
Could you just repeat the question?
Yes. So the question is how am I able to control my diet when I'm traveling? Because it's often it's difficult getting the right stuff, and in it is a challenge. And I almost started planning a bit ahead. And what I've seen now, the diet I'm eating now, for me, it's actually hard to stick to that diet in my native Denmark. It's easier in the US. I can go to Whole Foods, and I know they'll have the right stuff for me.
So sneezing seems like something that could be automatically tracked with a microphone fairly easily. But do you just write down when you sneeze? How do you track your sneezes?
No, so I've been using our own app. So basically, every time I've had a sneeze or 5, I've been using our app, and then I get a timestamp, I get the amount, and I get the location of the sneezes. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a point about doing the self-observation, where this summer I paid attention to my sneezes, and I think in that process of paying attention, I also felt the empowerment. Suddenly, it wasn't a symptom anymore. It was the system revealing
a message, yes.
A message, the system revealing something about itself.
Yes,
yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Paul?
did you catch 99% of your sneezes or 100%? I'm just trying to imagine never missing the occasion to punch a button after you make a sneeze. So, did you ever miss a sneeze?
No.
Okay.
The icy glare.
Yeah.
The confidence.
Let's take a question from the back, because it's sometimes hard to see back there. Did somebody, I thought I saw a hand go up.
So perhaps a comment from the question.
Yeah, because it's hard to do that, right? It's hard to be 100%, right?
Yeah, but because it made so much sense for me personally, and because I, during the course of the summer, kind of got attached to my data, I wouldn't miss a sneeze. It became very important for me not to miss a sneeze.
Go ahead.
Are you going to continue the tracking experiment for years so you can see throughout different seasons like the regularities?
Yeah, so I'm still tracking now, but I'm kind of shifting my focus. So the grass pollen season is over, but as I said, I can kind of control my eczema, but I'm still looking more into, can I get some leverage there? So I'm still tracking, and for some other reasons now. But definitely I'll track next summer too with the sneezing, because that'll kind of be the next indication that I was onto something here.
Well, I'm always curious the level of how much just the fact of you looking at the data is changing the situation, like a placebo kind of effect, or how can you actually say that your diet is the causal factor that, as opposed to just looking at yourself?
Yeah, so coming from process improvement, I'm kind of like, I'm using the scientific method, but I'm not trying to prove anything for you. So I had a problem, and I'm using the scientific method to improve something about my own processes. And that's a kind of iterative learning process. So I might, I might come back next year and say, well, it wasn't my diet, but I already had the benefits this summer.
We're going to take one more quick one, because we're going a little over, but yeah.
Did you track things like sneezes during sleep and separate them out from sneezes when you were awake or anything like that? Can you look at it? And you were able to track it while you were sleeping?
Well, I don't sneeze when I'm sleeping. Yeah.
Thank
so
you.
I
think that's good. Let's stop there and just thank you. Great talk.